You need to think long and hard about whether you want this job. Okay. Context. I work in IT in a very small area where everybody knows each other in one way or another, so networking with people is very important. I got a new job in a private school, partly because I knew the consultant acting as hiring manager at the time, but also because he knew I had skills in Azure and its many cloud components, which was the direction he envisioned the school going. Great stuff. I can do the migration no problem, as I've gone through it twice at previous companies. I started just before the summer holidays, which were 9 weeks at this school. God damn, that sounds bliss. So I spent a bit of time getting to grips with the equipment, network, and just generally settling in. It was a small team of myself, 2 desktop guys, 1 part-time, and the consultant, manager, who worked 3 part days, usually about 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. After about 3 months, the school hired a permanent manager and dropped the consultant after he had handed over all of his responsibilities. Things continued as normal. I worked away on getting the prerequisites in place while juggling some other projects like managed printing and network upgrades. Everything seemed great, although I was being pulled away from my cloud tasks more than I'd like, but figured it was just how things were here with such a small team. Jump forward to December. My 6-month probation was due, so I asked the manager, let's call her D, when we could have a meeting to discuss how things have been and sign off on my probation. She kept putting it off with generic excuses, and it ended up happening in mid-Jan, where she absolutely destroyed me. Instead of talking to me like a reasonable human being, she held up all these microaggressions and spent over 30 meters unloading them onto me, absolutely crushing my motivation. She also said she doesn't believe the cloud is the right way to go. Lol. And that I needed to be better at on-premise infrastructure and networking. I had specifically said during my interviews that networking is my weakest area and that I specialize in cloud computing. So essentially the role I am supposed to be doing has changed entirely to one that I'm not good at. She used this as a way to suggest extending my probation while she creates a new role for me that's more fitting, as I don't have the networking skills she was looking for. I was visibly upset and she left me for a minute. But just before she left, she said, you need to think long and hard about if you want this job, because right now you're not performing well enough to keep it. I sat there for about 20 minutes, alone in a side room near our office. Thoughts went through my head, doubting myself, worrying about losing my apartment I bought just 6 months ago if I lost this job, worrying what my family would think, and just generally how I'd deal with what I felt like was an inevitability. I tried my best with everything I did and she still wasn't happy. So I thought about what she said, do I want this job? No. So that night I signed up with all the local job agencies, frequently checked job sites, and all the time I was at work, I acted like she'd help me see my errors, and that I was working on them to prove myself to her. Actually, I hated her guts and couldn't stand being in the same room as her. I hadn't taken any of my annual leave days as I had no money after spending all my savings on my apartment, so I didn't see the point in taking time off to sit around. She nagged me about this constantly, saying I'd lose it if it wasn't taken, blah blah blah. Like I didn't already know how holidays work. I booked a big block of 3 weeks at the end of May as we had family coming to visit. This is relevant later. About 2 months later, I booked a couple days holiday to attend an interview. Obviously, I just told her I fancied a long weekend. I got the job. Not only was it more engaging and relevant to my area of expertise, but it was a tasty $7,000 pay rise with a bonus scheme up to 25% annually. Sweet. I come back in on Monday ready to hand my notice in, but she's booked a meeting with me while I was off for 10 a.m. to discuss my new role. I have my notice in an envelope and bring that to the meeting. She starts with pretty much saying, "You've gotten a bit better but still not good enough for this job, so I'd like to propose." I cut her off and hand her the envelope. She opens it, reads it and says, "Oh, okay. Huh." She says, "Okay, well your notice period is a month. So your final day will be 8th of June. I counter with, "Actually, I think you'll find that while on my probation period it's actually only 2 weeks, which brings it to the 25th of May, which is also a public holiday, as is the 24th, so my last day is actually the 23rd of May." She tries to say I'd passed probation, but I remind her of the letter I signed agreeing to the extension and that I hadn't signed any contract for this new role yet. A bit of back and forth and she finally concedes. I also remind her that I had almost the entirety of my annual leave, which has to be paid to me when I leave, as my finish date was before they were to be taken, as the school was going through a big cost-saving exercise. This would look really bad on her. She asked me to take them instead of working my notice, which I declined. I'd rather tolerate her for 8 more days and get paid for a full month's pay on top of my normal salary. She reluctantly agreed and said she's going to go talk to HR and let them know. On the way out of the meeting, I thanked her for helping me out in January. She looked at me confused, so I reminded her that I needed to think long and hard about whether I wanted this job, and I decided that no, I didn't, and found a much better package elsewhere. Now I have my own office complete with coffee machine and mini fridge, staff who work with me on projects, and time to work on Azure features like I'm supposed to, all while getting paid considerably more. Thanks, D. P.S. She got the boot 3 months after I left. Apparently she clashed with a lot of the teaching staff with her management style. Guess I wasn't the only one who didn't get on with her. TL. Doctor management changed at my previous workplace. New manager changed my role expectations massively and tried to demote me while citing, "You need to think long and hard about whether you want this job." I left. Shafted her by taking a shorter notice than expected due to her extending my probation, and got paid out in full for my annual leave. Beauty. I particularly enjoyed the extra maliciousness of refusing to take the vacay days early. Not sure I could have refused the opportunity to be away from this sort of person myself. P.S. She got the boot 3 months after I left. Apparently she clashed with a lot of the teaching staff with her management style. Guess I wasn't the only one who didn't get on with her. I would like to believe that other management told her, "We thought long and hard about whether we want you at this job," before letting her go. As the saying goes, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. The manager found this out the hard way. Classic case of people don't quit a job because of the work, they quit because of the management. When you hear, "You need to think long and hard about whether you want this job," you don't really need to think at all. It's time to start looking elsewhere, regardless of your profession. But don't do what I did and quit on the spot. Big mistake. Follow OP's example and quit once you've got the new position. I love stories like these. I've had enough years in the workforce to realize that the managers who beat down new employees are the ones who are very insecure in their own role. They don't want any of their people to think they are hot stuff, and they dare not tell anyone they are good, because that could mean the curtain gets pulled back and higher UPS can see where the real problem is. I always enjoy the ones with bosses who are too arrogant to see that they are ruining things for themselves and their companies. The "use it or lose it" holiday leave situation in the USA never ceases to amaze me. At least in this case the op had the unused leave paid out. I've read several times that this is not the norm. At least not past 2 weeks getting paid.
Well done.
In my experience, and from all I've ever heard and read, it seems impossible for anyone to take a new leadership role in a company, and instead of just barreling ahead with their own visions, take a little time to learn the lay of the land. In every case where "I'll do things my way," and BTW, "you're fired," happens, these leaders are out the door on their tail just a short time later. Op did the right thing by thinking long and hard. Her management style. She's no manager. She just works as one. 6-month probation period with no feedback during? Mental. This is so beautiful. I love these kinds of stories. Excellent. 8 days of her not being to do anything to actually get to you. What was she going to do? Fire you? Is rubbing salt in her wounds far more than it is grating your sanity? Then getting paid a nice extra payout at the end because of it. Jesus Christ, that must have been satisfying. Whenever you're feeling down, you can just spool up your memories of that last meeting and you're golden. She's basically a bullying. Sorry you endured that, but congrats on getting out. Maybe this was already asked, but did the migration to the cloud ever get completed? Or was this a situation where they pulled it all back mid-migration because of a difference of philosophies? Boy, have I seen such stupid moves done over the years. Damn, I love a happy ending. Good lesson for anyone putting up with a bad situation because of fear. Start today, with your applications and industry connections. Happy for you, Op. When are managers, supervisors going to learn not to ask people to think long and hard about wanting this job? It's always a perfect way to cause good employees to look for something better. Way to show them how it's done.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.